Welcome to How Do I Entrepreneur, our first network shop this semester, and thank you for joining. I am Tosin Ajibola, an MTME grad student at UMB, one of the universities participating in this semester's network shop series. With that being said, I'm happy to be your first grad host for the first network shop, and I am an international student from Lagos, Nigeria. I recently started a company with three other international students called UMB, called Welcome You. Our goal is to ensure that newcomers, both temporary and permanent residents, have a seamless integration into the Canadian community. So as a young entrepreneur, I am looking forward to learning from our speaker today and applying that knowledge to my business. So I ask, why are you here today? So to welcome everybody joining us, I'm really happy to see so many of us tuning in today, this afternoon. In case you don't know what a network shop is, it is a hybrid event that is part networking and a workshop. So we're going to prove that the virtual event can just be as interactive and social as in-person events. Today's the first event of 8 this semester. The Network Shop series is a partnership between 7 universities in Atlantic Canada, and they include the St. Mary's University, University of Prince Edward Island, the Memorial University of Newfoundland, Dalhousie University, University of New Brunswick, Cape Breton University, and Mount St. Vincent University. We have 5 network shops, including today, and these are designed to be an introduction to startup creation. You'll learn tools and resources on how to get started. You'll be inspired and motivated by our speakers, and you'll build a network of like-minded people from across Atlantic Canada. If that wasn't enough, we're also hosting 3 fireside chats titled Women Leading Startups. The first chat is next Tuesday, September 29th at 12:30 Atlantic time and 12:30 in Newfoundland. These chats are brought to you by Canadian Ecosystem Gathering and will feature a different female identifying startup founder from Canada each month. This event is open to all female identifying students who want to be part of a supportive virtual community for entrepreneurial women. Check out the link in the chat to sign up now. Well, that's enough of what's coming this semester. Now we start to kick off How Do I Entrepreneur? For today's network shop, we have partnered with Propel, Atlantic Canada's virtual accelerator. And before you get to hear from our guest speaker today, I would like to welcome to the stage Barry Beeson, the CEO of Propel, to speak a little bit about Propel and what they do.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. As a former professor of engineering and chair of the Technology Management and Entrepreneurship program at UNB, it gives me great pleasure and indeed a sense of pride that our organization, Propel, was called upon to be a major supporter of this great example of collaboration by Atlantic Canadian universities. This initiative is all about exposing university students to innovation and entrepreneurship as a career opportunity. You're going to learn about the typical journey of a startup founder, the challenges they face, and the personal qualities, skills, and knowledge that they need to achieve entrepreneurial success. My hope is that many of you will embrace innovation and entrepreneurship as a major theme in your university education. And I expect that the technical and business knowledge that you acquire in your university studies will inspire many of you to develop solutions to important problems that not only have commercial potential, but also can create positive impacts on society and the environment. For those of you that launch entrepreneurial ventures as part of your university experience, I want you to know that there are many organizations in this region that support entrepreneurs with programs and resources designed to foster the establishment and growth of much needed enduring businesses that will fuel our economy and sustain our standard of living in the future. Our organization, Propel, as has been stated, is Atlantic Canada's virtual accelerator for technology startups. The entrepreneurs we serve have the ambition to develop large, successful companies offering solutions that are driven by an array of technologies, such as artificial intelligence, machine learning, Internet of Things, blockchain, robotics, virtual marketplaces, and software as a service, to name but a few. I urge you to check out our website, propelict.com, for more information on how we support entrepreneurs, but here are a few highlights. First, we have a continuous intake model. So that means that you can apply for admission to our accelerator any day of the year. There's no cost to apply, and there's no cost to access our accelerator services. However, if your venture is successful in raising capital within 12 months of completing our program, we ask founders to donate 5% of the capital raised, up to a maximum of $5,000. Our services are 100% virtual. We will help you work smartly on your venture for up to 12 months, wherever you are located. If admitted, you will be assigned a dedicated startup coach that has startup experience. The coach will guide you in the application of best-in-class content and methodologies that we've licensed from globally recognized partners to help you get your venture on a solid footing. You will have virtual access to world-class experts, role model entrepreneurs, and mentors from the Propel Network. You will have an opportunity to acquire a $50,000 investment in your venture to help you achieve those critical first milestones. Our mission at Propel is to be a leader in fostering the growth of large, successful technology companies headquartered here in Atlantic Canada. And that is why we are so interested in building strong relationships with universities and university students. We're committed to playing a key role in retaining the high potential entrepreneurial talent in this region that is cultivated by our universities. So, in closing, I offer my best wishes to all of you for a successful and enriching university experience. And I hope that our organization has the opportunity to support the entrepreneurial pursuits of many of you in the future.
Thank you so much, Barry. It was great hearing from you. And if you want to learn more about Propel and how to get in touch with them, check the virtual booth by clicking Explore on the left-hand side of your screen. So on that note, I'm going to welcome our guest speaker, Laura Simpson, the CEO and founder of Sidor, to the stage.
Hi, thanks, Tosin.
Yeah,
Nice
thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. Yeah, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. I mean, normally, I will give a bio of the speaker, but since you're about to take us on your journey, please take it away. And right after Laura is speaking, I would come in and give a crash course on how to network on Hopin. Please take it away, Laura.
Great. Thank you so much. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen here, and I think you can see my slides. And I can see the chat too, and I'll be looking at the chat. So that's how we can interact and stay on the same page here. So thank you, and I'm really excited to be speaking to students. It's one of my favorite things to do because in my mind, I'm still a student always. And I'm right here in Halifax. That's where the headquarters of Sidor is. So it's great to be the first presenter for How Do I Entrepreneur, which to me, as soon as I heard that title, I thought of this meme, which I think some of you know, the I Can Has Cheeseburger meme, which it's just the language that it sounds like, which made me think, I wonder if somebody made money off of memes ever, which led me to this, of course. And yes, indeed, people have made money off of making memes. Of course, this guy seems to have gotten in trouble for it, but it was just a rabbit hole I went down in my brain to think about, can you really make a business out of just about anything? And yes, of course you can. That maybe not the route you're thinking of is making memes for a company, but let me tell you a little bit about where I started and give you a rundown. So basically, I'm the co-founder and CEO of SideDoor, and SideDoor is a marketplace platform, kind of like Airbnb or Etsy or eBay or let me see, Uber is like that too. So there's like a platform where multiple people can interact and services or goods are exchanged. And I didn't know any of that before I was starting. Even after I incorporated, by the way, I didn't know any of those words or any of those definitions, but that's what we are. So our job, the problem we're trying to solve is to help artists figure out how to create shows anytime, anywhere, including online now. So we're 3.5 years old. We were founded in April of 2017. We're a venture-backed company now. That just happened this year. And we have not consistently, but just this year started to hit around, $10,000 in revenue every month, which is sort of like a watermark for a lot of companies to sort of know if they're ready to consider themselves doing okay, or what, as they say in the business, a product market fit. You guys probably know more of these terms than I do. I went to school for like history and philosophy. So all of this was brand new to me when I became an entrepreneur. I have actually founded or co-founded 3 companies in the past and 1 annual event. So this company, SideDoor, was not my first kick at the can. And I've helped to raise more than $2.5 million in investment funds and $300,000 in non-dilutive funding, so government funding and that sort of thing. So it helps that I used to be a funding program officer, so I kind of know how to make that work and do pitches and that sort of thing. That helped. But I was doing that for a nonprofit called Music Nova Scotia for 7 years before I got into this. So now I'm managing a team of 11 full-time staff and 8 contractors. Most of them are in Halifax, but mainly we started to have a remote first policy when the pandemic hit. So we have folks working all over the world, in the US, in the Netherlands, most recently in Australia. So it's lots of fun. But of course, I just want to dig in a little bit of what we do, and then I'll zoom back out and start at the beginning. So SideDoor at a glance, this is just a screen grab from our website, which is sidedooraccess.com. Elise has put that in the chat. Thank you, Elise. So essentially we can book shows online with a collaborator or on your own. Most of our shows are actually through Zoom so that the audience can be highly interactive with the artist. They can talk to the artist can see the audience can see each other, which is always exciting. And then we also still have in-person shows that are only happening in places where it's safe to do so. So we had to spin up a whole new protocol of how to make that safe. And so we're seeing a lot of hybrid shows. There's, live shows happening. Even in St. John's recently, there was a show with Tim Baker, a merch fair that we did the online portion for. So they sold tickets in person, and then we sold online tickets. So there was probably, 100 or so in person, and then there was 250 online watching. So we handled that as well. And one of our big value propositions is that we want things to be transparent for the audience. So we make transparency a big key. We also do automatic payouts for the artists and make sure that they're getting paid what they're supposed to get paid. And we focus really heavily on giving support to everyone involved, including the audience. And that creates these impromptu communities, which is the best part. That's our nucleus, the show. So that's what we do now. I want to know where you're at with your ideas. So if you look at this and you're thinking about your own company idea, or even where you are, let me see where you're at in terms of ideas. I'm putting this in the chat. Give me a 1 or a 2. Are you more of the writing on a napkin sort of idea stage, or are you more of the number 2 where you're like, I'm in it to win it and the rocket ship is taking off? That's like a very propelled rocket ship, by the way. All right. Oh, there we are. MVP. Somebody has an MVP. Oh, I'm so pleased. Good. Okay. Okay, more ones. But you're thinking about it. Good. Okay, good. Love it. Now pay attention to each other, because I think you can notice that you can look out and seek out other people who are working on things maybe after this in the networking session. Let's do that. That'll be so much fun to do. So great. Thank you for answering that. It's good to sort of think about where you're at in stage of company development. It's not always easy to kind of know where you're at on the timeline. Sometimes you're farther along than you think. Sometimes you're not even anywhere and you actually have done so much. So it's good to sort of take perspective on that. So I want you now to think about, when you think of an entrepreneur, who do you most identify with here? Is it like the Beyonce does everything? Is it more like the conservative? I don't know why everybody folds their arms when they're in a business picture, but anyway, Elon Musk, Kim Kardashian, who do you think of when you're thinking about an entrepreneur? Who are you in these pictures? I'm seeing a lot of Elon Musk coming up. Okay, great. Amazing. You think about Elon Musk, he started with something he did something that I actually want to talk about. He did something very specific. He wanted to make an electric car, but he wanted to make it like a high-end sports car, so that it was super, super specific to people who would be really critical about how it worked. And so what that did was that the feedback he got from those users actually gave him so much information to then drill it down and make it for the masses. So it was a really smart way of going about it. It was a specific way of approaching a problem. So, okay, great. Thanks for those responses. That's awesome. I think it's one thing I wanted to add to this is it's important as you grow as an entrepreneur to think about, to separate who you think you should be to who you actually want to be, because you only can really be yourself. And that's the most important thing for being a successful entrepreneur. And I define success as really aligning your values and your passion and your skill set with the actual problem that you can solve, that you can uniquely solve in the world. So this is where I was at in high school when it's my yearbook entry. And I put in here that I was going to be on the Forbes 500 list. I had no idea what that really meant. But I think it was mostly to, a desire to please my father at that stage of the game. And then I actually, did a lot of things before I became an entrepreneur. This is just a grab I got from Instagram that I posted a long time ago of all the jobs I had through the years and how, much or how little I got paid doing those jobs. And it's just, I just wanted to, say, like, if you're not having your own company right now, every single job and boss and customer that you have along the way is going to inform you for what you do as an entrepreneur. And Dan Mangan, my co-founder, the one job that he really had other than being an artist and founding Side Door was working at the Keg. And he talks about it on a really regular basis because that, it's these reference points. Yeah, Santa Land Elf. Yeah, I was Santa Land Elf at the Halifax Shopping Center. It's good times. Yeah, so don't doubt that any of those jobs are valuable to you as an entrepreneur. When I first started, my first company was when I was 21. I don't know why I put my headshot on here. It's really dumb. But this is a business card from ages ago. And it was basically like I recorded people's stories and put photos into a hardcover book. And it was great. I loved it. I loved telling stories. I became a journalist after that. But the labor involved in doing it and the money that I could actually charge for that labor just didn't make sense. But it was a first go and I learned a lot from it. So, do your first go, just like commit to it and just go for it. But then later on in life, I was hosting house concerts at my house. This is my backyard. And I remember just getting so inspired. I was sitting actually right where this picture was taken. And I just saw this whole thing unfold in front of me where I was just like, you know what? Hosting shows at your house with artists that you love is not something that just I can do. Anybody can do it. And so, because I was thinking about all the repeatable processes that had gone into doing this over and over again. And so that's what we started to build with, piecing together different free software and, a lot of phone calls and spreadsheets. And it didn't actually become a coded site until much later. But, think about where your skill set and your passion intersects. And that's probably the best thing that you're going to make for a company. So yeah, why are you an entrepreneur? Is it money that drives you? Is it passion? What is your passion specifically? What is the problem that you're trying to solve? And why now? Because timing is extremely important, especially now. And don't be scared of the pandemic in the sense of starting a company. There is so many interesting things happening right now in the world of startups and new companies. There's a lot of things becoming obsolete, but a lot of new jobs and new opportunities coming up. So it's a really fresh time to innovate. So don't be afraid of the timing. But also think about why you? Why are you the one to solve that job? I wanted to do a little check back here that I found this picture of myself where in 2015, I said, I've got an idea. It's all going to be okay. And, the ego that I had at that stage of I have an idea that's going to solve everything. It's good to have confidence, but keeping it in check with what the reality is of what's actually happening is good to keep in perspective. And the other thing I want to mention is, they always say surround yourself with great people. And I would say surround yourself with people who are really going to support you when things go crazy. This is a message exchange I had with my brother when I was just starting out. And, he really had my back. And it's really important, especially when you're starting out, but also when you're hitting some lows, that you surround yourself with people who can hold you up through those really, really trying times. So find those people and stick with them. And they may be just people in this chat group right now who are on the same journey with you. I'm still friends with other entrepreneurs at Volta and people I met at Propel who are totally getting what I'm going through. And definitely never stop learning. I went through Propel early on at Volta. I attended something called DazzleCon in Portland, Oregon. If you look up DazzleCon, I think there was only one in-person thing in 2018, but they were just these purpose-driven, socially and environmentally conscious entrepreneurs who really thought that you could have profit, but also sustainability and just socially conscious companies all at once. And I just met my people there. It was so great. So go to the workshops, find your people. Propel was amazing for me to meet people as well. So just never stop learning when you're on this journey. It's so important. And then, take the big things and make them great. I don't know if you're going to be able to hear this, but this is just, we made this video of this nucleus of a thing that we really wanted to ensure we got right. So it's again that Elon Musk example of take the small thing and perfect it, make it repeatable, figure out how to make it repeatable, figure out what those things are that are attracting people back to that thing over and over again. And we did this at this house, at my house, and all the small places that were early hosts for us. And we learned what people wanted. And now we have 1,000 venues all over North America. I think it's here. This is the 2018 stats. Yeah. So at that time we had 750 artists, 334 hosts. We had sold just under 5,000 tickets. This is 30, 40 people per show. It was small. But we were working from my kitchen in Halifax, but just, you're chipping away at the idea. And then we turned it into, this is the most recent one from last year, before the pandemic.
A gig through Side Door?
So this is at Strombolopoulos' house, Strombo's house.
About some kind of platform that would do something.
That's Havaya Mighty, who won the Polaris Prize last year. She actually just announced a show on Side Door today. and that's Dan doing a show, and it just got bigger. It just got bigger. We were able to, grow it in the way that we wanted to. So just chip away at it. But then we had the pandemic, and I started to panic because our business is focused on gatherings that we didn't know what we were going to do. So I started just posting pictures of my dog as a puppy on Instagram incessantly to cope. And then we pivoted hard. So it was like panic time, puppy time, pivot time. But this is a cup that my mom gave me, which I love this picture because, it's from the Space Center in Florida, and it's like failure is not an option, but the cup is broken and there's beer in the cup. So a couple of things here. Find the support you need when things get tough. Know that failure is definitely part of the plan. It always helps you get better. And there was beer in this, but I have to say, I actually quit drinking for about a year, and I only came back to it like 1 or 2 drinks because I realized that when you do fail, dwelling in like really bad coping mechanisms is not going to get you any further. So I think by avoiding alcohol, I actually was able to sustain myself through that really hard fall. So now here we are. We have a proof of concept for the in-person shows. Just before the pandemic, we were having an average gross of about $500. Average tickets sold were 23. Average ticket price was $20. But this example on the top here said the Whale was making more money from our shows than traditional shows. So that was our proof of concept. We were so keen about that. Then the first 6 months of this year happened. And listen, I had never expected this. I didn't even want videos in my shows, but now we're doing online shows. And of course, we've doubled the average gross. Average ticket sold has gone right up. And this is actually an old slide. This has gone up, and we've had some amazing artists, amazing presenters. You can go and see Vance Joy's doing shows on our site right now. It's bonkers. Like, we had a growth of 3,000% ticket sales in a 3-month period. So it's going okay. We're doing all right. Those hard falls are really meant to kick you in the ass. And what kept us going was we stuck to our vision and our values and what we were passionate about. And the problem we were trying to solve was still there. How do you get artists in front of their audiences, direct to the fan, and make great shows? So we just changed the tools and we changed the setup. So keep that in mind. I wanted to just end on this note of thinking about yourself as a creator, as an artist. Entrepreneurs are never not creating. Mainly, you're creating solutions to problems, but largely you're trying to do something that hasn't been done before, at least at this time, and maybe for the people that you're trying to serve. So think about yourself as an artist. We're born artists. You're born to create. Being an entrepreneur is one of the most glorious and devastating things that you can ever do. And I'm so happy to talk to you today. Thank you so much.
Wow, thank you, Laura. Thank you so much for an amazing story. Wow, from a kitchen in Halifax. That's really inspiring. Thank you so much. So without further ado, I would like to open the floor to the audience. If you have any question for Laura, please just place it in the comment on the right. And then joining us on stage to help moderate the Q&A is Charlotte Murray, an entrepreneur in residence with Propel. Welcome, Charlotte.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you for today. It's always nice to hear your story. So hi, everyone. Nice to see everyone here today. So I've been working with Laura since 2017, and it's been amazing to see her on the journey. I've become a host myself, and actually in March, when it was Mother's Day and we couldn't see my mom for her 70th birthday, we actually all bought tickets on a side door show, and we all watched them from across BC all the way to Europe. So it was a great way to share something together when we couldn't be physically there. So Laura, maybe you can talk a little bit about the progression from having started house concerts in your own home into where you started working on it as a product with Propel in 2017. I'd like to kind of showcase that example in terms of what it means to create an MVP and start proving out value before you start building a product. So maybe you can start there, and then as the questions come in from everyone and from the audience, we'll go with that.
Yeah, sure. I can start with that. We, and again, like I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't go to business school. I didn't really know what an MVP was. Honestly, meeting Charlotte and going to Propel was the only thing that got me anywhere. And I remember like being at Volta and thinking it was like a singles club for meeting developers. Like I didn't know how to meet developers. So what we did learn was that an MVP was something that you could just prove the concept with like just a framework of what you could throw together. So we were using, like I said, free software to match people. But, the first step was really to know, do people want this? So Dan had leverage because he had a fan base. And so he posted on Facebook one day, like, what are your frustrations like going to see live music? And, we had this form to fill out. And I think we got, there was definitely 2,000 plus people that responded, I think. And so many people commented on the post and then answered our type form. And it was so much user feedback. And people were telling stories. They're like, I go to the bars and I get jostled in people's beers. And they're, they had so much passion behind their concerns. And so we were like, okay, feedback. And so that feedback from our potential users just became the way that we grew. So we were like, okay, the first thing is that people want to know maybe not just the steps of how to do it, but how to meet people. So matchmaking became the first thing that we did. So we'd have a form where people fill out like, I'm a host, and then people like, I'm an artist. And then we'd actually physically match them just like with two windows on our computer screen, and then call them up and be like, okay, we got a match for you. We're going to do a show at your house. Like this was the MVP, just doing it by hand. And I was e-transferring money. It was very, very low stakes and no costs, volunteer work. So just start really easy.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good example of how you actually were basically physically doing all of the transactions that now your platform is doing. So we have several questions coming through here. The first one is, how do you deal with competition?
Oh my gosh. Well, there was not really competition for exactly what we did before, but now there's so much competition. Like in the last 3 months, we've done more than 400 online shows now. Wow. And there's been an explosion of people it is basically like a paywall and a streaming platform. And so what we have done is really dig into our niche even more. So like, sort of what I was saying about Elon Musk and like knowing his audience is really important. So we know that our audience, our really diehard fans, thrive off of these interactive shows. So we doubled down on the interactive shows, and we really promoted how people can do shows on Zoom. The quality in audio and stuff isn't as great as broadcast level, but the interactivity was so good. And during the pandemic, when people were isolated, like the feeling that you get from watching these shows is so amazing. Like if I could see all of your faces right now, I would feel so much better, So we doubled down on that, and it really has worked. And we've had hiccups. We've lost good artists who've gone the other way and wanted to make more money, but a lot of them have come back. So it's like we dug into what we're really good at in order to like make that moat around us to protect us from competitors.
Yeah, I recall when we were talking about that even several years ago, where you were really focusing on the artist, and you've stayed true to that, and that definitely pays dividends when they come back to you. Another question for you, Laura, is how do you differentiate a businessman or business person from an entrepreneur?
Oh, like this guy? Yeah, it's funny. I think that it's when I first started going to networking events, especially locally, I got to say, like, I never felt like I was, with people that I related to. So I think when I started differentiating the difference between an entrepreneur and like just a business person, and it's not just a business person, that's just a choice. Like I very much identify with like punks and anarchists, and like, you know, like I'm really interested in breaking the rules or knowing the rules so that I can break them. And I think that when I think about the business world, the more conservative business world, it's more about like following a tried and true path. So for the entrepreneur side of me, and maybe in you guys too, it's about like really clearly understanding how things work. And that's what I mean by the learning, like really learning. You know, like I'm in a capitalist world right now, but I'm definitely playing by hippie rules. You know, like how do we manipulate this so that we can do the Robin Hood thing and take, you know, all of these riches and then take them and put them over to those who deserve it most, which I think is the artists. So right now we're doing that with 90% of what we make. 90% goes into the artist pocket. So I think for me, it's just like the differentiation of like, are you following a path that's already been mowed out for you, or are you finding a new path?
Okay, wow, that's really awesome. So taking you back to your presentation, you mentioned around surrounding yourself with good people, people who you can turn to. So what exactly did you look out for when you were picking a co-founder or the quality you looked out for?
Yeah, it's funny, like co-founders. So again, I didn't know what I didn't know. So I just thought I'm going to start a business and I can do this. And I have some music and like knowledge, and I had done like a little bit of business stuff. My mom was an entrepreneur. I grew up with that. So I can do this on my own. And then I heard through Rich O'Coin, who's an artist, that Dan Mangan had been trying to do this kind of thing with house concerts with the artists that he was working with. And so we just started talking, and our values aligned so much, and we had very similar visions of what the future could be. And he had leverage, he had connections, and even though he's in Vancouver, he's still in Vancouver. There was enough alignment that made sense for him to be sort of the front guy and the, you know, bringing in the industry sort of thing, and I could basically run the company. So I became the CEO, and he became the just like he does most of the recruitment and sort of like most of the front facing things. And having a co-founder, I think first that you have to align your values so strongly. And I did this. I'm doing an Instagram takeover on Side Door Access today, and I told this story about walking with Dan in the park and having to do a deal breaker conversation of just like, what are the things that you have to have in place in order for this company to be okay with you so that you don't lose your soul. So, you know, you have to have those conversations with your potential co-founder so that you just put it all on the table. But now that we have that, we keep, you know, it's like a relationship. It's like a business marriage, you know, like you keep re-upping that trust, you keep re-upping your, you know, your feelings, your concerns, your like stresses, and then you have a partner with you at every stage of the game to do that with. So I think having a co-founder is.
Wow, that's great. That's great. Thank you. Yeah, Charlotte. Thank you so much, Charlotte.
Yeah, I agree. Having a co-founder is really important. That you have someone to, you know, run things by, problem solve. And what the next question is actually around. What would you say to someone who doesn't have any ideas of what they want to develop themselves? So it sounds like they want to start something, but they don't know what they want to start.
I really think it's helpful to work within somebody else's company, like somebody else, a small company that's doing it. And then you kind of watch for the things that during the day you get excited about. Like when I helped my mom in her company, I did everything. I used to do deliveries. I used to do accounting. I did photocopying. I called the lawyers when they weren't paying their bills and told them that they had to pay their bills, which is a hilarious job to have. But you do all these different things and you learn what skill set that you thrive off of, like that you look forward to the next day. So then you know that those are the skill set that you're going to have to offer to a company of your own. And the other thing is I was like, just get out, like just go. And I mean, you can't travel right now, but travel virtually, like really explore what is happening in the world and be curious, like dig into what is going to when you wake up in the morning and you're looking at things on the internet or you're walking around, like, what are you most curious about? Like, what could you think about all day long and never get bored with? And that's probably close to what you should make a company about.
Yeah, it makes and you have to have a passion for it. You have to really be passionate about the problem that you do choose to solve, because it's going to be with you for a few years. So next question from the group here is that you alluded to the struggle when COVID hit. Have you had any training in resiliency to help you through the ups and downs of being an entrepreneur? And what would you recommend for entrepreneurs to manage those ups and downs?
My training in resiliency. My husband just walked by and he's smiling at me. Maybe being a parent. Yeah, I think that actually being a parent has helped me a lot in a lot of ways, because you're giving birth to a company just like you give birth to kids, and then they can do a lot of things happen, and then you have to figure it out. So yeah, I would say that has trained me in resiliency. And at the end of the day, like, I've learned something from an engineer friend of mine, and it's actually a rule. I think it's called the 80-20 rule. It's a well-known rule. It's sort of like like you never are going to be 100% sure of anything. So we really didn't know what it was going to be like doing online shows. So it was like, I think this is going to be okay. And then just, press the red button and go for it. And you kind of have to dig into that energy a little bit when you're really unsure. And it's like also the momentum thing. It's like, the longer we weren't stagnant for very long. Like, Dan was on tour. He had a full sold out tour in Canada. He canceled a sold out show in Toronto the night after he'd just done a sold out show in Toronto. And that was like March 17th or whatever. And then I think we were in the field position for maybe a week. And then we're like, okay, we got to do something. And so immediately just started doing online shows and experimenting and doing the MVP stage all over again. Because at the end of the day, we knew artists were going to be, in really big trouble. Venues were going to be in big trouble. The need was still there. The problem was still there to solve. So our motivation was still really there. We couldn't lay down and just do nothing.
Wow, thank you so much. So our next question is, what is your biggest mistake as an entrepreneur, and what did you learn from it?
Oh, gosh. I think my biggest mistake is one that I continuously make, that I'm trying to not do as much, is I don't think I'm great right away at delegating work. And so when you take on too much, you actually strangle your ability to do your jobs very well. So at the beginning, you're doing everything. You really are doing everything. But as soon as you can start to get help, get help. And that could just be somebody who's going to maybe do your books for you or something else. You can do a trade with them. But the more that you can, especially if you're the visionary of a company, that's why I go for a long walk every morning, is you have to keep an ability to be able to step back. If you get too much in the weeds or you become a bottleneck of action, then it's trouble. So I think that's one of my biggest challenges.
Yeah, so thank you so much, Laura, for the great presentation. Thank you for the great answers as well. Thank you, Charlotte, for moderating this Q&A session. So we have come to the end of the workshop part, and we're going into the network part of this session. But first, thank you so much, Laura. But first, I would like to give a crash course on the Hopkin networking. So you can click on the networking tab on the left-hand side of your screen. You share your camera and your audio, and then you get matched with someone else in the room for 3 minutes, and then you match with somebody else after another 3 minutes. It's a fun and low-effort way to meet new people that you wouldn't get the chance to meet normally, especially in this virtual world that we're in now. And if the conversation isn't great, no worries, you'll be matched with somebody else in another 3 minutes. So myself, Laura, and Charlotte will be there, as well as many others. So don't log off just yet. Come in and say hi. Thank you for joining us this afternoon, And I hope to see you all again next Thursday, at the next event on Thursday, October 1st, 12 p.m. Atlantic time and 12:30 in Newfoundland for the Uncover the Right Idea. And for the female identifying students, we hope to see you on Tuesday, September 29th for Women Leading Startups. And also it's 12 p.m. Atlantic time and 12:30 Newfoundland. See you all at the networking. Thank you.